Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Studio City Neighborhood Council Land Use Committee, our regularly scheduled meeting for October 12th. I'm calling this meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. I'm Scott Mandel. I'm the board president and for the moment, the acting chair of the Land Use Committee. And we have a few new faces here tonight. If anyone wants to introduce themselves, or I'll just say their names. Joanne, do you want to say hello?
Hello. Nice to see everybody. Some of you again.
Well, welcome aboard. And we have one more new member, Susan, but she's not here tonight. So she will be on board next week. And the rest are all old familiar faces. And I'm glad you all tuned in. That is pretty much my only announcement and update. So we're going to go right into, calling roll. There we go. So in no particular order, Scott Mandel is here. Jesse Porter?
Here.
Susan Hammer is not here. Richard Niederberg?
Here.
Dean Cutler?
Here.
Adele Slaughter?
Here.
And Joanne?
Here.
Great. And we have a quorum. And let's get started. So we're going to go to item 3 right now. Public comment on non-agenda items within the committee's jurisdiction. If you are a member of the public and you would like to make a comment on an item that is not on tonight's agenda, but it is under the jurisdiction of the Land Use Committee, please raise your hand and I will call on you. So I see we do have a few members from the public. This is your time to raise your hand and speak on a non-agenda item. I'm not seeing any hands. Going once, going twice. And public comment on non-agenda items is closed. Item 4 is not applicable because nobody made any public comments, so we have no responses. And now we're going to dive right into item 5. I'm going to promote our applicant. And did you say it was John?
Yes, John is dialed in on his phone.
John's iPhone.
It's John's iPhone, exactly.
Okay. And the way this will work is I'm going to read the agenda item and then I'll turn it over to you and you can make your presentation, after which we will then go to public comment, after which we will go back to the committee for a Q&A. So item 5, presentation, discussion, and possible motion, proposed project, John and Vinny's Studio City, project address, 11334 West Moore Park Street, 91602, case number ZA-2022-5398. CUB, conditional use permit to allow for the sale and dispensation of full line of alcoholic beverages for on-site and off-site consumption in conjunction with a 3,364 square foot restaurant with indoor seating for 94 patrons and a 258 square foot outdoor patio in the public right of way with seating for 27 patrons in the Q C2-1 KC-Rio with hours of operation from 8 a.m. to 12 midnight daily, with alcohol sales from 11 a.m. to midnight daily. New construction, 996 square feet of storage mezzanine. This is the former site of Los Balcones Peruvian Restaurant and Bar. Applicant Jonathan Shook, company joint venture restaurant group, representative Brianne Chan, joint venture restaurant group. And there's the link to city planning, to the findings, and to the restaurant website. That being said.
Point of order.
Yes, Barry.
The numbers that you listed for indoor and outdoor patrons on the agenda is completely different from what you stated.
Yeah, the numbers have slightly changed due to the application between agenda time and this time. These are the revised numbers. They're not substantive.
So what are they again now?
They will be listed in the motion as well. So instead of 3568, it's 3364. instead of 84 patrons, it's 94. And instead of, and Brianne, interrupt me if I'm misreading, instead of 258, it's 235 square feet outdoor patio. Is that reversed?
It is now 258.
Yeah, 258 instead of 235. And the seating is for 27 on the public right of way instead of 16. The new construction is 996 instead of 902. And that will be written in the motion, which will be shared on the screen, Barry. You got that? Where'd Barry go?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So, Brianne, you should be able to screen share and make your presentation.
Sorry, Scott, you cut out for a second. Did you just say that
You
we're
should
good to start?
You should be able to screen share.
Okay, great. So, John, are you also unmuted? Are you allowed? Are you?
I'm unmuted now, yes.
Okay, perfect. So let's see. Hold on. Let me do this. So to share my screen, do I just click down here at the bottom, share screen? Yeah. Hold on, sorry, 1 second. Hold on, it's not loading for some reason.
Got it to go?
It's it's saying that I need to grant access on my system preferences. So just 1 second. Sorry, everyone. Okay, it should be good. Okay, let's see if this works now. Okay, share screen.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. So here is our deck. Let me just load it up. Okay, can everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay. So hi everyone. I'm Brianne Chan. I am the Director of Communications for John and Vinny's, Animal, Son of Gun. Our restaurant group is called Joint Venture Restaurant Group. And we currently have 3 John and Vinny's open now, and we are in the process, just days away from opening our 4th location. And so John and Vinny's Studio City would be our 5th location, and we are excited to come to the neighborhood. So as Scott mentioned, this is our conditional use permit with our updated numbers here. Here is a map of our location. We are on Moore Park and Backman Avenue, right on the corner. Here are some renderings of what the space is set to look like. As you can see, we have the outdoor dining on the left side of the restaurant. And here's some renderings of the indoor space.
Watching the meeting with Lindsay, and it's not good. They really want to go way too much.
I'm sorry, what? I missed that.
I don't know who was speaking. Whoever that was, mute your mic. Go on. Sorry about
Okay,
that. I don't
no
know where
worries.
that sound came from.
And then here is our plot plan. Tell me if you want me to go over this. So here is our floor plan. And this is an exterior and interior photo of our first John and Vinny's on Fairfax, which we opened in 2015. Here is our Brentwood location, which we opened in 2019. Here is our South Los Angeles location, which we opened earlier this year. Oh, sorry, the end of last year. And here's some more details of the interior. And at each location, we do have a Helen's Wine Shop inside of the restaurant. And this is a really special place where you can get wines for dine-in or to take home for retail. She also does wine clubs, gift boxes, wine tastings. Here is a photo of some of our dishes. We are open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So our breakfast menu is from 8 a.m. to 11:30, and then our lunch and dinner menu is from 11:30 to 10. Here is our ABC license for John and Vinny's Fairfax, Brentwood, Slauson. And, since we've been in the Los Angeles community for over 16 years, John and Vinny's first restaurant opening was Animal in 2008. We fully understand, the importance of safety and having all of the employees trained for, liquor licenses, and we follow all protocols, and, safety is first. And then I also wanted to end on our neighbor of the Studio City location also sent in a letter of recommendation. He also kindly offered his parking spots in the lot for us to use when he is not in, when his business is not open.
Great. Anything else to add before we go to the public and then back to the committee?
I think just something to note is that we, we're not like a sports bar or, anything like that. We really are a restaurant first before anything. And, yeah.
This is John. I'm just going to jump in here for a minute. Both Vinny and me have been cooking together for over 22 years. Currently, we both have 2 kids each, and all 4 kids are at Oakwood Elementary right there. We have been coming to the community in the neighborhood for quite some time, doing drop-off, participating in school functions, and have really admired the Tahunga Village setup that's there. Mike Thaxton, who owns the building directly next to us, has been a longtime client. He brought the building to our attention when it hit the market. The former restaurant did have a liquor license there. During the pandemic, they neglected paying and keeping their permits up to date. And, it's been a long process getting through the building department, and we're on the verge of getting ready to start construction in the next 2 to 4 weeks. One of the permits that he allowed lapse was the conditional use permit. So we are trying to reinstate it. We're also bringing the building, which you can see from the renderings. We are basically knocking down majority of the front of the building and giving it a proper facelift to improve the exterior of the building and make it feel more in line with the current neighbor building that's directly next to it. So it will feel very impactful for the neighborhood. And we're excited about this project. This is our first John and Vinny's that would have hard alcohol. We know the other restaurants in the neighborhood right around the corner all have hard alcohol. So, we definitely think it's an important component to keep as we forge into a new neighborhood. We do have a sister restaurant called Petit Trois in the Valley in Sherman Oaks. So we're familiar with the Valley clientele. And like Brianne said, we have a very strict training program for liquor handling, liquor serving, and obviously follow all LA and state laws regarding serving of alcohol.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So the way the format goes is we then go to public comment, and we'll give each person who raises their hand 1.5 minutes to speak. We'll let the comments, let public make both their comments before we address them. So I'll make note, or you can also make note of what their points were. We can address those, and then we'll go to the committee. So I will give you, once you start speaking, I will start the clock. Barry, unmute yourself, and you have 1.5 minutes.
Thanks. It sounds like they have a good business model for what I remember as the Dairy Queen that I used to ride my bike to and get ice cream cones. But be that as it may, my main concern is their hours of operation. I think Sunday through Thursday, they should not be open past 11. Friday and Saturday could be midnight. And I think outdoor dining needs to end at 10 p.m. 7 days a week. I'm also concerned if they have any kind of music, either live or recorded, being played outside or inside the building, if it's audible but beyond the property line. And I think you should all go to what Richard sent out earlier today, the conditions for service industry establishments in Studio City that this committee did several years ago. I think it is an excellent guideline for these folks, and I think they could adhere to every single one of them. And only in number 2, you would just strike Ventura Coalinga specific plan, but it would be they must comply with LA Municipal Code for their signage. But I mean, otherwise, I think all 20 of those conditions are things they need to do. And again, no outdoor dining past 10 and close at 11 Sunday through Thursday. Thank you.
Barry. Brandon, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I thought I recognized the names, and then Miss Chan mentioned Animal. These guys are pretty famous. If I'm not mistaken, Anthony Bourdain sat down with you guys and ate bone marrow at Animal. If maybe I'm assuming it's you guys, but they've been around for a while. They're very well known, and I have every confidence that they're going to adhere to all guidelines and standards, and I believe they'd be a welcome addition to the neighborhood. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for that. You lower your hand. Michael, go ahead, please.
Hi there. So actually, Michael, hi, just to confuse you. Michael is my husband, and this is Lindsay. So we're the next door neighbors that are most directly impacted by the restaurant, which we are a fan of, your work. We love, your food. We've been many times to other restaurants, but I do have my concerns I don't understand why the hours of operation would be until midnight. To me, 10 o'clock seems much more reasonable and in line with the other restaurants in this neighborhood. That's my biggest concern. Any sort of live music, I don't know if that's part of the plan or any sort of music, that's a concern. I mean, we have an 8-month-old whose room is literally butted up against the parking lot. So I definitely have a lot of concerns that I would like noted. We're hoping to have a good neighbor next door. So far, the restaurants that have been there previously haven't been great neighbors. Perhaps that's also why they didn't stay in business. But yes, my biggest concern would be the hours of operation, anything surrounding hard liquor, music, and I need to take a closer look at that floor plan, but I want to make sure that that parking lot is being used as a parking lot and not any additional outdoor seating.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay, for that. Do you mind if I ask, how did you find out about this meeting?
We have a flyer regarding it.
Great. Thank you. If there is anyone else in the public, E. Rose, go ahead, please. Unmute yourself. E. Rose, you have to unmute yourself. I cannot unmute you.
I think she's unmuted, actually.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I've lived here for 25 years and I'm 3 doors down from your establishment. And I'm concerned that the parking amazingly has gotten from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I don't want a lot of valets going in and out because we have so many children in our neighborhood. And also that if Vitello's has to close at 10, why would you stay open until 12? I don't understand. Go ahead.
Thank you for that. Anybody else from the public who would like to comment on that? Please raise your hand. Not seeing any more hands. The public comment is now closed, and we'll go back to the.
E. Rose raised her hand again.
Oh, E. Rose, you still have more time. Did you have something else to say?
Are you talking to me?
We're talking, what's your name?
I'm Jeannie Love. I live 2 doors down.
Okay, Jeannie Love, but there's also someone named E. Rose who's trying to talk, but I don't
know who that is.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right, very good. I think that's it now for public comment.
Wait, but can I, it's amazing to me that you guys left a flyer on my doorstep last night about this meeting. That's kind of frightening when it's all been on the agenda. Are you smoking?
No.
Okay. It's all been on the agenda for a long time, and all of a sudden you're, oh, tomorrow we're on. Nobody else knew about it. If I didn't let my neighbor next door, do you know about it? She would not have known. That's kind of below the line politics, and I don't like that.
Okay. The passing out of the flyers, we're going to address that later in the agenda. That's a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if we didn't pass out the flyer, which the previous land use committee never did, you wouldn't have known about this at all unless you subscribed to the neighborhood council. So by the time the agenda goes out 72 hours in advance of the meeting, and we printed the flyers and passed them out the earliest possible point we were physically able to pass them out. So we're actually going to work on a better way to inform the adjacent neighbors, but I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you saw the flyer. and we will work to improve flyering the neighborhood, which
Thank you.
is something brand new. And your point is very well taken. And I'm going to go back to Barry, who has his hand back up. Go ahead.
All I was going to say is to that caller is that for a decade, going back 6 years ago until 16, every single thing was flyered, and I was the one walking and distributing them with the land use chair, following me in her car and picking me up at the end of each block. That stopped in 2016, and I applaud Scott for resurrecting this because it's not been done at all for 6 years. So, whether it's done 3 days in advance or the day before, it's not a requirement of a neighborhood council to do. So just be thankful that you got something. I applaud Scott for doing this. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you for that, Barry. And we will be addressing that in the next agenda item. So before we go to the committee comments, I'm not seeing any more hands from the public. If Brianne and John could maybe touch on the issues we heard from the public, and then we'll go into the committee. I wrote down what the points were, but you probably know what they are. I can refresh your memory.
I have them written down as well, Scott.
Great, thank you.
I want to first address, I think her name was Lindsay, the direct neighbor, who was her husband's thing with the 8-month-old. So currently right now, there's a chain link fence that's been completely engulfed with some kind of climbing vine, which gives us very little barrier. We are going to address that by putting up a proper wall to start with. The parking lot will have no outdoor seating. It will be used for parking. Some of the new ADA laws will make the parking lot smaller because of the appropriate receiving areas that are required for handicap. With that being said, Mike Thaxton from Thaxton and Associates, who's directly next door to us, has offered us to be able to use his parking as well, post his office hours, which is typically 5 o'clock, which will give us a lot more spots as well. Currently at all John and Vinny's, we only put valet in when it is needed. So we usually open without it. And if we can't control the customer in the car flow, then usually we put one valet to really man the lot, not necessarily park the cars because of the cost of the valet. And then I want to address the hours, right? This seems to be a big concern with a lot of neighbors. So we went ahead and looked at all the restaurants in the area. And I'll just go through a couple of them. Pat's Cocktail Lounge, 2 a.m. The Fifth, 2 a.m. Bar Oyster House, 12 a.m. Stout Burger, 10 p.m. Little Tony's, 12 a.m. Kiki's Kitchen, 11 p.m. Vitello's is 10 p.m. And 11 on the weekends. So we have done our research on the time. Currently, John and Vinny's run from 8 in the morning until 10 p.m. With the rising cost of construction, labor, what we're hoping to do is be able to do our full menu until 10 p.m. and then do a limited menu from 10 to midnight. When we are starting our cleanup process, the actual bar part would stay open for people to be able to come in and still sit and get a small bite to eat, maybe have a drink. After 10, when we're cleaning up the restaurant, that bar area is the farthest point of the restaurant's property, the farthest point from any residential, and as well completely indoors. So for us, we've taken into consideration all these thoughts ahead of time. And we look forward to being great neighbors, and making the neighborhood a much more, it's already not cheap to live over there, but hopefully it helps bring the value up even more. The Dairy Queen exterior is still the same. It has been that Barry used to ride his bike to. And, we are going to invest a lot of money in redesigning the exterior of the building, like Brianne showed in the renderings. So in order to recoup some of the investment, we need to have the flexibility in the evening past 10 o'clock if the demand is there from the neighbors. If there's no demand for us to stay open past 10, we're definitely not gonna. We're professional operators. We have been on television with Anthony Bourdain. We've won James Beard. We've won Best New Chef. We've won numerous restaurant awards. All three, well, hopefully Beverly Hills will get the same thing, but all three of the current John and Vinny's that are open, have been nominated for design awards. So this is something that we take very seriously. And our restaurant only works if the community supports us, right? So we want to come into the neighborhood and be supported by our neighbors. We want to be able to have an open dialogue. Since we've had the building and gone through the permitting process, we have had calls from different neighbors to report break-ins or the alarm that we put into the building was going off. And anytime that anybody is called, we've jumped on it, whether it's graffiti on the barricade that we put up to secure the building so you didn't get homeless. There's a ton of homeless right up the street, under the bridge that just got cleaned up. And we thought it was very important to build that barricade. That was not a cheap expense because we wanted to make sure before we started construction that the community was excited about us and they wanted us there. We have a lot of clients that live in the neighborhood that are very excited to have us. And I just want to address the flyers as well. Scott let us know that we could speak in this neighborhood council meeting today. And as soon as he did, he also informed us about wanting to do the flyers. The neighborhood council required different requirements. And we got them printed and got them out there as soon as we knew. And we're very appreciative that everybody's called in and voiced their opinions. And, Brianne is more than happy to put out her email, and you could email us, contact us if you want more, visuals or us to share the flyer with you. But like I said, we look forward to become part of this community even deeper than we already are. Because I'm there right now, Monday through Friday, doing drop off and doing pickup. Today I was at the Oakwood Elementary basketball game for my daughter.
I think one of the stakeholders had mentioned if you would be stopping the outdoor dining at a different time than your hours. Would the patio dining be open after 10 o'clock as well?
Yeah, so right now, Scott, if you look at the floor plan, there's a bar that's on the I guess that would be the south west corner, I believe, of the building. That bar would stay open. The rest of the restaurant would actually start to close down. Currently, we do last seating at 10 o'clock. Our Sherman Oaks property on the weekdays, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, after 9:30, we don't get a lot of seating. You'll get a couple tricklers that trickle through. But I mean, we want to manage the property to the best of our ability. We also own the real estate, so it's not a lease. We are planning to be there for a long time with the investment that we're making in rebuilding the property.
Thank you. And one of the questions was music, live music or otherwise being audible outside of the establishment.
So we don't do any live music at all in any of our locations. A couple times we have had people bring in a mariachi band for somebody for their birthday for 2 or 3 songs. But in general, it is all Sonos space speakers, and they're all zoned. So we can control any zone to make sure that the volume isn't out of tune or out of whack for whatever zone we're in. So yeah, there will be some outdoor music, not loud enough that will be able to be heard. And unless you're sitting there in the dining area. So, we plan on controlling all that.
And lastly, at least from the public, there was concerns about, I know you touched on the valet. Someone seemed to be concerned about valet parkers coming up and down the neighborhood with cars. That's not going to be an issue?
I don't think it's going to be an issue. You'd be surprised the amount of people that use rideshare now. It's dramatically impacted some of our other locations that have valet, the amount of cars that they park in a given day, which dictates their business. But we don't see any issue right now. I mean, we've spent a lot of time in that area. There seems to be ample amount of parking available kind of post 5 o'clock, or I think it's 6 o'clock when there's a couple road closure areas during rush hour. But we haven't, seen or feel like we're going to have any parking issues.
You had meters, there's metered parking on Moore Park, and I believe the permit parking on Bachman, there's no parking after 9 unless there's you have a permit. So that would lead me to believe the valet parkers, if there is valet, they're not going to be going down Bachman.
I mean, I wouldn't see them coming down Bachman.
Okay.
I don't know any reason why. The adjacent building, which has offered their parking to us post their operational hours, you have to enter actually through that gas station to get into that parking lot. So you wouldn't be coming down Bachman, they would be coming on Moore Park.
Great. Okay, let's turn this over to the committee and just raise your hand and we'll just go in order with your questions, comments, concerns. If there's any committee members, Richard, go ahead, please.
I would like to propose that we adapt the conditions we've already, the committee has done, used before, basically, changing the stuff on line 2 as far as the specific plan. But other than that, I think it was a pretty good, very well vetted thing. And so I'd like to have the same rules apply here as we've had other places comply in the past.
So Richard, as far as those conditions, those are new to this board and this committee, at least for the last 2 years of the land use committee and board meetings I've been to. I've never seen those conditions. That would be something that I would agendize for the committee to review at our next meeting and go over item by item and see what conditions we would give to if we're going to adopt the old list, because it has not been in use. I can tell you for sure for the last 2 years, I've seen all the motions from land use into the board and the conditions are very specific. We've never published or approved a list of preconditions for all applicants. And I don't think that is something we should be doing tonight. I don't think it's fair and proper. Plus the committee as it stands now would need to weigh in on that first. And I see Joanne, please go ahead.
Yeah, what I'd like to have the committee consider is that in years past, there's been problems with noise, and it's not necessarily so much the noise of the patrons, it's been the services that appear after a restaurant closes. There's been, by the neighbors, complaints about dumpsters and trucks, cleanup, throwing away glass bottles and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to bring that to the attention of the owner, and I think the adjacent businesses have worked something out with the neighbors. So if you would make an inquiry and see what has been worked out for over the past couple of years to keep after hours noise down, it might be to your benefit. And the other thing that I wanted to also say is that I wanted to invite you to become really involved in the community. A lot of merchants come in and they're interested in the neighborhood, they're interested in the statistics, but the only way we keep our statistics and our community together is that each and every one of us chip in, not just with money, but with time and effort and cordiality towards our neighbors. So come and be involved. Let's see you everywhere, anywhere, see you with frequency. And that would be good for you and be good for the community.
You guys can respond to that. please?
Nobody.
I want to just thank Joanne, and I definitely want to know who is chairing the restaurants after hours noise control, because we would love to speak to them. I don't know if you have a direct contact, but if you
I
don't,
don't think it's a formal organization. I think what happened is the neighbors got together a couple of years ago and worked with the restaurants as they were changing hands. In my recollection, there was a lot of complaining about after hours restaurant maintenance noise. They were complaining about the trucks going, back and forth in the alleys. They're complaining about the glass containers being serviced at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. That kind of stuff. So you can control it, you can watch it, and I guess talk to your restaurant neighbor friends and see how they've done it to pacify the neighbors, because there have been years in the past where that particular community has gotten pretty agitated.
yeah,
Yeah,
To solve the
there's no
problem.
pacifying the neighbors.
I'm sorry? There were mostly people on whose property backed up on the restaurants, either in and around Valley Village, that area. I haven't heard much of the people on Moore Park, but I do know that the people in this small village area who are adjacent to that have complained in the past. So I'm just trying to suggest that you be proactive.
yeah. We take everything very proactive. Unfortunately, the trash system is controlled by the city. So we don't get to dictate who the trash service is in the neighborhood. I believe you guys are Athens out there. We always request for them to pick up in what we consider our slower hours. We don't want any deliveries happening in the evening. That's our busiest time. That's when customers are coming in and out. We currently at our other locations, we don't receive anything past 4 o'clock from any vendors. Basically, if they don't get it to us by 4 o'clock, they don't get the sale with us. As far as the trash, different communities have different trash services. Usually you just get put onto their route. You don't really get to choose. And that's why I asked what committee or person. But we will definitely, go by some of the restaurants on Tahunga and, see if we could try to track down any information regarding that. As far as being part of the community, I spend a lot of time at that park. I pick up trash. I don't think I've ever seen anybody from this on there at the park. We try to participate in every community that we go into the area by hiring local people, training them from ground up. We went in recently into South LA, a neighborhood that we were kind of a little fish out of water. We had multiple neighborhood councils because we were right in the middle of the pizza wedge there. And, we worked through a lot of little things with each neighborhood council to really try to please every neighborhood council. And I think we've done a great job. The community has been incredibly supportive down there and have been really excited about what we have brought to the neighborhood. Obviously we support all of the local officials, as far as donations, these kind of things. We try to focus mostly on kids' schools and our programs is usually where we focus our donations. Restaurant business has become incredibly hard financially since the pandemic. And, we obviously have a budget that we look to stay within per year. And it can only go so far. So we can't do everything, but we try to do as much as we possibly can.
Yes, before I call on Adele, as a follow-up to what Joanne was discussing, as you wind down the hours and you approach closing time, what's the overlap from the time you actually close to when there are no people on the premises, no one wheeling out, the buckets of the bottles to dump into the dumpster and all the other cleanup operations that could possibly generate more noise if they involve the outside where the dumpster physically is, if they're, people are tossing out trash that makes a lot of noise. When are you out of the premises and you lock the gate?
Well, it obviously depends on the night and when the last table is sat. Currently at our other locations, usually we're out around 11:30 in the evening, completely out of the building, and then it stays locked until 6:30 in the morning. You know, obvious, they all have security cameras fully surrounding the building, interior and exterior, alarm systems. As far as recycling, currently at all of our John and Vinny's location, there's a couple different employees that take it. So we aren't throwing it in the dumpsters. They recycle it for additional income for themselves. You know, we understand the noise, and, you know, as I stated earlier, that one of the big things that we know, especially butt up against that house and what the current wall is between our parking lot and that house, is pretty much nothing. It's a chain link fence with grown ivy all over it. So we have plans to do a full wall there, also to fully enclose the dumpster. So the dumpster will be an enclosure to help with any kind of rodents, you know, any kind of, you know, debris, you know, keep people out of it. You know, I know that that's an issue that we've experienced in some of our past locations, is that people digging in the trash, looking for the recycling, these kind of things. So having a locked trash enclosure makes it a lot more difficult for people to get in. So we try to think through all these things, and until you're actually in operation, you know, once we get in operation, we're going to have little things that we're going to have to work through and work out and deal with and fix, you know, because what works in one location might not work in the other. But as a restaurant group that has 12 properties around the city, I think we have a pretty good experience and understanding of how to properly operate a restaurant within a neighborhood.
Adele?
Hi, do you think you could put up your slide with the pictures of I want to see the pictures of, if you have an overhead, so I can see where the building is and where the parking lot is.
One moment.
Thanks. And while she's doing that, can you tell me how many parking spaces you will have?
I'm going to let the screen pull up.
Sorry, 1 second.
I don't want to misquote a number. We
Right.
have a projects going on, so I just rather wait until the parking lot comes up. Do you have the parking? Yeah.
So that's the parking lot, but right now the parking lot is significantly bigger than that, correct?
It is bigger, but
So the building is going to take over some of the parking.
the building will, yeah, and this is technically to what is your code in your neighborhood. So this is what the additional square footage that we could add on, plus the current parking guidelines for this particular zone, is what is showed right here in the plans.
So tell me, the parking lot is going to be how many spaces?
Technically, it will be 5 spots, 1 being handicap. And this is what is to code currently for this zone.
That's this is the parking, you're going to have only 5 spots?
So so we have 7 parking spaces, 4 standard, 1 ADA van, 4 long-term bicycle, 4 short-term bicycle.
So you have a total of 7 parking spots.
Well, excuse me, Scott, do you get extra credit because you have bicycles parking, so that you take away the otherwise required parking spaces? Is that how that works now?
Yes.
So what's the trade? If you have 4, if you didn't have 4 bike parking spaces, how many more spaces would you need? Can that be figured out?
I believe it's 4 bicycles for 1 parking space.
Okay.
Well, if the bikes are down there next to 1, is that where the bikes are, down there?
No, that is the trash
Oh, that's
enclosure.
the trash. The
This-
bikes,
The bikes can be on property, or they can even be on the public, on the sidewalks, actually.
And how many?
The bike racks,
Yes.
what they are is bike racks, and they come in
Yeah. How
various.
many guests do you expect to be able to service?
5, well, they're gonna have about 100, over 100 seats.
130 space, 130 seats.
And then if
Oh,
people come in
121.
121.
121, so then if you divide that by 2, let's say most people come with 2, that's 50 some odd cars, right?
I mean, I would be shocked if we had 50 cars with,
Right.
I would tell you is that, you'd be surprised how many people, will walk and take shared ride services, Uber, Lyft, these kind of situations. It's really has impacted our valets at our other locations that have proper valets with the amount of cars that they're parking.
So
Our
I'm just trying
prime
to,
hour-
okay, I'm just trying to get a sense of
Yeah,
parking.
our prime
Because
hours.
I know that neighborhood pretty well, and parking can be a little dicey in there. So 1 through, you have 7 possible 7 parking spaces. How many parking spaces is your neighbor giving you?
He's giving us full right of his entire parking lot post his office hours.
And how many, do you know, is that 10?
I want to say it's 16 there.
Okay, 16. So then, and then there's some stuff along the street and so forth. And
You have a couple meters on
Moore Park.
Backman, and
Moore
then you
Park
have a handful of meters on Moore Park as well.
and Backman, yeah, I
Yeah.
know. And then how much has the building expanded? Because the parking lot right now is significantly bigger than what I'm looking at on this now. So how much have you expanded? What square footage have you added to the restaurant?
I don't know the exact square footage of the addition that would be added.
New construction, 996.
900 square
Yeah.
feet.
So that's
That's the
about,
storage, isn't it?
no, that's the new construction for the building. Go back to the,
It says
Um,
996 is the storage mezzanine. Is that in
Yeah.
second floor?
go back to the last one rendering there.
For the last one, this one right here.
Yeah. So
Oh, sorry.
you're, yeah, it's the building's quite a bit bigger than the building that's there now. I can see that because I just was there today. So, okay. And then the bar is in the front part of this.
Yeah, if you look at the slide on the left,
Mhm. That's where the side,
where
that's
it
where the
says
street,
bar, there's a round circle
Right.
right there.
Got
That's where
it.
the bar is.
and the seating on the side is over here. That's
On
on
Bachman.
Backman.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that, so you know, is part of the restaurant, which will not stay open past 10.
Okay.
Just the bar area for a limited menu when they're
Mhm.
doing their cleanup.
Mhm. Okay, so, and can I see the next slide, please?
Yep.
There we go. And this is the inside. That, the top right one is the bar,
Yeah, currently that is our working design
but that's where it's going to be in the front of the building.
in the
Maybe,
front.
maybe,
Yeah.
sorry, maybe look at the floor plan.
Yeah,
and-
let's look at
and
the,
walk
yeah,
through the floor plan.
there we
No
go.
problem. Plot plan, and then here's the
Oh,
floor
here's,
plan.
There you go.
okay. Okay. So this is can you see my cursor? Yes?
No.
Okay. All right. So the bar, will you put where the bar is?
It's bottom left there.
Yeah, that's the bar. And then where's the wine bar? Is that in the middle?
There's no actual wine bar, but if you see in the bottom right corner of the floor plan,
Mhm.
it's a wine room.
Is that
Uh,
Helen's? Is that what Helen's is?
That
Exactly.
is what Helen's.
And it's a combination of wine storage for the customers that are dining in the restaurant. And at all of our other locations, we currently do a retail program there. So if you live in the neighborhood or you're stopping by, you could come in there and buy a bottle to go.
And is the kitchen in the middle of the whole thing? Is that the kitchen?
Yes, it is.
So the kitchen is buffered by the dining room and the bar.
Exactly.
And what's, so that's dining on the right, that's outdoor dining there? Oh,
Yes,
the outdoor dining's up on the top, okay.
exactly.
And all the
That's
rest is
back to-
dining, all in like a horseshoe shape around the kitchen,
Exactly.
okay.
And what we've noticed in our other Valley location is, there's kind of a real dinner service in the community that
Mhm.
starts at around 5:30, 6 o'clock,
Mhm.
and goes pretty hard until about 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yep.
So we need to capture enough sales to make the math all make sense. So it's a little bit bigger than some of our other locations as far as seat count, to be able to maximize our sale during the prime hours of what we're seeing in Sherman Oaks and when the community is sitting and eating at that time.
Okay, you can stop sharing your screen. That now I know what to ask.
I
I got
also,
I got a couple questions before we get rid of that.
Oh, okay, go ahead. You ask questions. I have some questions too, but go
Sorry,
ahead.
what
No, you go.
is that a side yard there where you were talking about Helen's and there's some doors that open? Is that
So that-
bottom there and up against Thaxton's building? Is there a side yard there?
so the building does not touch each other. So Thaxton's building would kind of be parallel with that wall. If you went there now, it's already there. There's a utility closet right now on the back of the building that will be moved to in between our two buildings. You will enter the kitchen through the parking lot in between the two buildings, which it's currently already designed like that property. So as you're entering that door, it is outside, and that is utility closet that you'd walk by into the entrance of the back. And then next to that would be the mop closet. So the mop closet and all the utilities would be in between Mike's building and our building.
I think he's talking about the doors on the bottom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that was
That's into the
Thaxton's
parking
building,
lot.
because I thought that the patio at the top is Backman.
So those where the cursor is from the mouse,
Yeah.
that's a utility closet. So that's where our hot water heater is, our electrical panel, all that kind of mechanical components that run the building will live right there. And that's in between Thaxton's building and our building.
Okay, that's what I thought, but the cursor before was on the right. Okay.
And if you could just bring the cursor to the middle, the double doors, not the entrance to the restaurant, but keep going to the left. No, back to the middle,
Oh,
to the
sorry, right
right,
here.
right there.
Right
That
here.
is a mop closet. So that is where the mop sink, mop buckets, brooms, stuff like that live.
But all that's between your building and the neighboring building. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not on the parking lot side.
No, it's in between our building and the neighboring building.
Got it.
The Moore Park along this side and then Bachman along there.
And parking lot along here, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a plain type 47 license, or are there more?
Sorry, do you mind repeating that?
Are you getting just a type 47 license, or is there anything else you're asking for?
A type 47.
Thank you.
Okay, you can let go of the screen share. I think that the neighbors have some really good concerns. And I also think that you're kind of, first, let me say that I think it's a great upgrade to the neighborhood. I think it's going to be really nice. I think some of the other neighbors might not be too happy because you're going to take their business away from them, but maybe you'll just bring more business to the neighborhood. But, you know, Vitello's does close at 10, Aroma, which is really quite close to you, closes at 9. And the kind of restaurant you are, even though you have a bar, you're not sort of a bar-y type place, right? It's not like that. So my feeling is I don't know why you wouldn't stick with Monday through Thursday at 10 and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday till 12. That seems very realistic and very actually what's going to happen anyway, because we're pretty sleepy here in Studio City, and I think we're as sleepy as Sherman Oaks, if not, well, I think we're equally as sleepy. So, I think that you're gonna, I think there's another wine bar along, I forget what it's called, like, I think it has like it's a really nice wine bar, very similar kind of feeling to what I think you're going for. I just think that because you're in a neighborhood with people with children, that you really will end up closing at 10. And I think that, and I know that what happens, because this has happened before in our committee, is that people say, well, we'd like to have the option to stay open till 12 should we have that business. And it's very hard to go back and get another, to extend your permit. So I understand that. I think it's problematic to stay open late during the week. And I also think the parking might end up being a problem if you get super popular, because 7 spaces isn't very many and another 16 really isn't very many. So if you were to be, jumping full to capacity, I guess that's a problem you'd like to have. So those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, so I want to address just a couple of your thoughts. So, we serve food until 10 o'clock at all of our restaurants. And, if you currently come in and order a glass of wine or something at, let's say you sat at 10 and your food's coming out at 10:10, 10:15, and you order a glass of wine, we want to be as compliant as possible. So 11 o'clock would be, I would say more understandable maybe than midnight on those earlier days, because we wouldn't want to not be compliant with whatever our rules are. Parking, if we have the demand and we have the customers, the 2 places I would go to right away for parking would be the church, which I know Oakwood currently does use their church parking, which has a ton of parking, and really is only operating mostly on Sundays besides random events that do happen. And as well, Oakwood, I think that, having 4 kids at between 2 from me, 2 from Vinny, we pay tuition from them. We know that they would, that they're super excited to school. They talk to us about potentially being able to do some school field trips, do some school lunch stuff. I know that they are not open at night, and I think our relationship with them is really strong. They would be another lot that we would go to if the demand was there, right? And I think that that's the unknown for us right now, is how busy are we going to be? And we react to what it is, because if you can't find parking, you're not going to stay. You're going to leave. So it's our responsibility as operators to put butts in the chair. And, the first step is just getting them in the door. And if you can't get them parked, you're never going to get them in the door. But before we go making a commitment to renting additional parking or having any kind of valet or anything like this, we need to make sure that the demand is there. Petitchois in the Valley, which is us, we have a CUP that goes to midnight. We do not stay open to midnight every night, but we do have one that goes 7 days a week till midnight. And we try to be the best neighbors we can there. I would say my biggest fear over in this neighborhood is the trash. Just knowing how inconsistent the LA County trash system has been in all of our locations, that has been our biggest hurdle, especially because of the ADA requirements in the parking lot, and where we wanted to position a dumpster for smell, for being able to have it locked up. It's inside that parking lot. I do not want the trash truck pulling in and picking up the dumpster from there. I want them to push the dumpster through the parking lot. So that is my biggest concern right now. And I hear your concerns about the noise and about the time, and we're going to do the best we can to manage it, on all fronts. To be a great restaurant, you got to have neighborhood support. I want everybody that lives in the neighborhood, not just to want to eat there, but eat there regularly. And they're not going to want to eat there if they think I'm a jerk or we're bad neighbors. So.
What about employee parking?
So employee parking, we have two managers, the chef and the GM, who are assigned to go to this location, live in the neighborhood. They're incredibly excited. As we start to hire staff, we will be positioning ourselves to try to hire as many local staff as possible. As far as actual employee parking in the evening, we're going to have to work through it, but I think you would be shocked how many employees that work in the restaurant ride public transportation, and there's a bus stop right near there. So we're hoping that we're on a route of some good employees. A lot of employees that work within the neighborhood usually work within multiple restaurants. People that work in the restaurant business, it's most people have multiple jobs. So we're hoping that the person that works at Aroma in the morning walks over to work for us in the evening. But we will tackle that as needed. And for example, in Beverly Hills, we rented 6 offsite parking spots for employees to use. Between that and public transportation, right now, it looks like for Beverly Hills will be good. But once we open, if it seems like it's even more difficult than what we expected, we'll rent more spots. And I think that that's, kind of always our approach, is try not to bite off more than we could chew at the beginning. And then as you run into issues or problems, tackle them, fix them, and be part of the community in that sense.
So I'll chime in real quick about Vitello's. I've heard it mentioned quite a few times. I've been there for many musical events, and it's my understanding that they've been closing at 10 because they have live music. It's a live music venue, and that is why they had to. I mean, they literally turn off the mics at the concert or the performance at 10 o'clock. They have tables in their parking lot. So I counted 12 spots in the Vitello's parking spot, and I counted about 6 that were taken with tables. They have tables on the sidewalk, and they have tables in the street that also took away the metered parking. So it's they have quite a large capacity, and they do have a valet. And we have heard from neighbors that Vitello's is parking in the neighborhood, but I believe they're going west of Tujunga after the permit signs are off, and there's no permit parking further down that way. And that seems like it might be a little too far for you guys. Anyway, would it help any of the committee if I screen shared Google Earth and you can actually see the street, and you want to get a visual perspective before we move on? Will that help anybody, or should I just not do that? No? Okay.
I know the street. What's the sign permitting hours?
I believe it was 2 hours all day up until 9 p.m. and then no parking unless you have a permit. Actually, I'll tell you right now, I believe I took a picture of it. Bear with me. Here we go. 2 hour parking, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. If you have a permit, you're exempt, and no parking, 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. If you have a 81 district permit, you're exempt from that too. That's up and down both sides of Bachman and all the way to the next street where the park is. It's all permit parking pretty much on the east side of Tujunga. Meters on Moore Park, permit a little bit by Vitello's, and then a little bit west of Vitello's, I did not see any permit signs.
Scott, I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I would say I'm 90% sure that the parking parallel to the park, where the sidewalk is, it's along the park. That side, I believe it does not have 2-hour parking. I believe that is unlimited hours with no parking decal. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's what it is.
It would make sense, being
Right.
adjacent to the park.
I also know right in front of the park on Moore Park, there's about 8 or 10 spots as well that are not permitted as well. And those I'm sure of, and those are on Moore Park. Kind of where the workout area is of the park.
Hey, Scott, why don't you go ahead and share Google Earth? We can look at it.
On the east side of the street of Elmer along the park, it is permit, and on the west side against the park, no permits. Okay, let me screen share here. Bear with me 1 second. You'll see the back of my head because I'm on another computer. Okay, let's hope you don't get motion sickness. I'm turning around, and we're going to go back up to Moore Park. Amazing technology here. Okay, so here we are. Would you like me to make a left and go down Bachman?
Yeah, those are all permitted parking.
Right.
Besides right there in the front.
This looks like it might have been a loading zone or a valet station. There's no meters, and it looks like it was green at one point. I don't know what that actually is.
The neighbor across the street in the apartment building told us that was a loading zone, but the loading zone had been removed and painted with no meters. And she asked us if they were going to be putting meters back there. And we told her we were not sure.
So this is along here is where you said you're going to be putting the wall rather than this.
Yeah.
So that would work here.
Mm-hmm. And if you see, if you drove right behind that building, there's additional parking right there. That's Mike Thaxton's building that he's offered parking to us. And you enter through the gas station. So you don't ever come through Buckman.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
So you enter in this alley.
Yeah. And that's all parking right there. And there's more parking behind the building. That's his.
On the street there,
Not on the street. There is meters on the street there, but right next to the building where you see that white car parked, not right there. That's meter, but on the other side.
Yep.
That's his. And as you go around the building, there's more parking as well.
Got it. And then if you go down Moore Park the other way. Oh my God, I am getting dizzy.
You want to go east or west on Moore Park?
To the park.
Towards,
okay.
yeah,
Towards the school.
Yeah, gotcha.
There.
So this is all red.
Right.
And you want to pass the park, correct?
Yeah, once you get past the light, there's more parking. Oh, went too far. So that's the church.
So
right there where those cars are, no
right.
No decal parking required.
How about going down Elmer?
Yeah.
Yeah. We want to try to keep everybody out of the neighborhood as much as possible.
Okay, so you got the permits on the east side of the street. I mean, I'm sorry, on the west
That's
side
the west.
of the street, and nothing on the east. We'll keep going down Elmer.
Yeah, well, it makes sense that
Yeah,
Yeah.
at night when the park is not in use, this is fairly sparse.
Mhm.
Anywhere else you guys want to go? Or should I unshare?
Unchair.
Great. Was there anyone else from the committee that had a question or needed a clarification?
No.
You guys are all good? Okay, well then, I think the next step is we go to a motion and we work on that. So I will screen share again. Bear with me one second. So I'm going to turn this camera off. Okay. Okay, so I wrote this generic, and then we can get a second and chime in and make amendments accordingly. So the board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, I'll say, supports with conditions the proposed project, John and Vinny Studio City, project address 11334 Westmore Park Street, 91602, case number ZA-2022-5398-CUB. A conditional use permit to allow for the sale and dispensation of a full line of alcoholic beverages for on-site and off-site consumption in conjunction with a 3,364 square foot restaurant with indoor seating for 94 patrons and a 258 square foot outdoor patio in the public right of way with seating for 27 patrons in the QC2-1KC Rio with hours of operation from 8 a.m. to 12 midnight daily and alcohol sales from 11 a.m. to midnight daily. New construction of 996 square feet, storage mezzanine with the following conditions. So to do this properly, I would need a second, and then we'll go ahead and have the committee help out with amending this motion to what was just discussed. Do we have a second? Nobody?
I will second it.
Thank you.
I think discussing some conditions might be a good idea.
That's what I'm waiting for. We all have access to this on the Google Drive. So let's hear it.
Well, I would like to change the hours of operation. But why are you putting that as a condition? Why wouldn't you just change it?
Right.
That's the conditional use permit. So we don't change that part.
Why not? Why not?
Hold on.
We put conditions on it?
Yeah, that's how it works. That's how all the motions have been. This is the permit, and then we say what the conditions would be.
Okay. So I don't know how you word that. With the condition of what do you want?
I want 10 o'clock.
I want 10 o'clock also. And do you want Sunday through Thursday or Monday through Thursday?
Monday through Thursday at 10 o'clock, possibly some later hours, maybe until 10:30 or 11 on Friday and Saturday, but not Sunday, because Sunday people are settling down in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
I think that should be the first condition. The second condition should be that they have to enter into contracts for parking with the adjacent neighbors. that where the neighbor is bound, it's not just some vague maybe, because the neighbors will be pretty upset with us if we don't assure them that a place with that size, with that many customers, has more than 4 parking spaces. I think that would be irresponsible of us.
And I'd like to have any agreement run with the land.
Pardon me?
No, that's for later. You can't, I'm not gonna.
That's becoming very, very far reaching. And I don't think even if you're going to enter into a contract that any reasonable property owner is going to enter into anything other than a month to month, because they're not going to sign into the unknown. That's just
So do you want to vote on those
practice.
conditions?
That's just practice in
Well,
theory.
hang on, we have to, let me, we're talking about a change of Sunday through Thursday, and then a Friday and Saturday.
Correct.
Keep in mind, we just recently approved a restaurant, Sunday to Thursday, 11 a.m. 11 a.m. to midnight, Sunday to Thursday, 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. Fridays and Saturdays. So let's not maybe get too far ahead of ourselves in these restrictions.
Is this you, Scott, speaking?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got a stack of all.
No, well, so I put it on the floor. You want to open that condition for discussion? Is that how you want to handle it? Or you want to call it? Because if we discuss these conditions and everybody on the committee has an opinion on the conditions, we're going to be here till 11 o'clock at night.
Exactly.
And we've already all said our piece.
Sure. I'm going to, for the sake of us being able to read it, type what a condition is, what you want. I'm trying to get to the point of Sunday to Thursday and Friday and Saturday. So Sunday, okay, so the condition, one of the conditions that was brought forward was closing at 10 a.m. I just want to get that right, every night.
10 p.m.
10 p.m.
10 p.m. every evening.
10 p.m.
10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, right?
I believe, Joanne.
That was my position.
That was
Sunday-
my position too.
Sunday through Thursday?
Yeah.
I said close at 10. And Friday and Saturday you can close. Everybody's out. I mean, I'd like to see closed period at 11 o'clock. That means that everybody's out of there. 11, not 1.
Okay, so,
Point of order.
yeah, Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, you always oppose in a motion unless the conditions are met. So
Thank you,
if
Barry.
we oppose this unless the following conditions are met.
You're right. Thank you.
Right,
So they're
Barry.
not met. They're not met.
Hang on, Barry, in the last 2 years, it's never been written like that, so I'm going off of how the neighborhood council.
Well, don't use the
Barry's
last 2
right.
years as your example.
Yeah, I understand that. I appreciate the fact that nobody ever chimed in for 2 years on any of these things for that. So
I did, and she never listened to me when I would say it.
And I did too, and she never listened to me either. And I heard, I had to go to the bathroom, but I heard you saying about past things, but we didn't have people from the neighborhood coming and saying they didn't want this. And now we
that's
do.
actually not true. For Sportsman's Lodge, there were plenty of people who piped in
No.
and said no, and they were cut off, and they
That-
had 1 o'clock and 1 and 2 a.m. closure. So I'm just trying to be consistent here. So
Well,
let's
you
just
can't
vote.
be consistent if
I
people
don't-
don't get listened to.
Let's do condition, hold on a second. Let's do the first condition that was brought forward. Sunday to Thursday, close at 10. Friday and Saturday, close at 11. That was brought by Joanne. So we have a second on that?
Yes, Adele seconds.
Okay. Barry Johnson, go ahead. What are your comments on that proposed condition?
I just was going to say, I think you also need to say because we have in the past, no outdoor dining class past 10 p.m. I mean, people have to be off the sidewalk at 10 p.m. off it 7 nights a week.
But that's what I meant, closed.
That's pretty restrictive for
It's
weekends
not,
to go
it's
7 days.
actually, it's been in our list of conditions in the past.
Well, I think you can't say that a unit, something that applies to the sportsman's, which is kind of a self-contained area, is going to be the same that's going to apply to something that's a middle of the residential neighborhood.
There's ones on Ventura Boulevard that back directly to houses. Same thing, 2 a.m.
But Ventura Boulevard is a completely different ball of wax compared to Moore Park.
Are we having a discussion on the motion again?
That's what I'm trying to do on Sunday to Thursday.
So don't you now call for a vote? Yes, no?
No, I go to public comment. And then we go back to the committee for discussion and a vote.
Yep.
So Melanie Winter has her hand up. Go ahead, Melanie.
Oh, thanks. I was looking at their website for their other locations, and they close at 10 every night, everywhere. And they also serve breakfast, which they would have a hard time doing opening at 10.
No.
I'm talking.
Go ahead.
I apologize.
So, thank you. So standard for them is open breakfast is 8 to 11:30. Lunch, dinner is 11:30 to 10. Is this something we're opposing here, and we want them to serve breakfast from 10 on, and we want them to close, meaning servers, the entire staff is gone by? We're not being specific here. Do you have a problem with the hours of operation that is their standard practice at their 3 other locations?
I think you've misunderstood, Melanie. It's they're going to open at 8 and they're going to close at 10. Does that answer your question?
Open at 8, close at 10 is their standard practice.
Correct.
At all their other locations.
And I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and that's fine. So I think their clarification here is if the restaurant closes at 10 and staff is still around behind the bar and cleaning up after that, I think that's what they're trying to cover with their midnight maybe, but just somebody was saying open at 10, close at 10. Now you're saying close at 11.
Well, no, I was the one who made the motion. I'm saying closing is at 10 o'clock p.m. and on Sunday through Thursday, and on Friday and Saturday they're allowed to stay open for another hour. And then the question is, are they allowed to do stuff inside the facility that's quiet, where most of the people are gone, but just a skeleton crew to clean up? That's something that I want to ask everybody else's opinion on.
Yeah, I would ask the body to clarify their hours of like public operation. 8
Oh,
to
that's a
10.
good word.
You know, public operation 8 to 10. Great. That's
Yeah,
like that's
so I
exactly
just want to jump in
their
here.
other locations. That's all I'm saying.
This is John. I just
It's
want to jump
always
in.
gone without saying that when a place closes at 11, they are cleaning up after that time.
Yes, and this is John. So yes, the hours of all of our John and Vinny's are 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. At all of our locations. We either have we're allowed to serve to midnight or 2 a.m. Like you are correct that during those couple hours when you're cleaning up, you don't want to lose that opportunity to sell another glass of wine to a table that might still be sitting there. If it's no alcohol past 10 and you showed up at 9:55 and you're eating dinner with your family, you cannot order alcohol past 10 o'clock if that's the conditions that you're proposing. We're asking for midnight so we have that runway and we're 100% compliant. And if a customer is there at 10:45 or 11 o'clock sitting there having dessert, blowing out a birthday candle, and they want to have a glass of wine or a drink, that we're able to sell it and be as compliant as possible.
Is there anybody else from the public that wants to comment on this condition? Raise your hand. If not, we're going to go back to the committee. So,
How do you
pardon me,
raise your hand?
in the Zoom app that should say reactions.
Okay, it's not happening, but can I make
Sure,
it?
go ahead.
No, I don't want this because I've lived here for 25 years. Vitello's doesn't open past 10. Why should this new company have any say and stay open past 10, period?
Back to the committee. We're talking about the condition, Sunday to Thursday, close at 10, Friday, Saturday, close at 11. Does anybody else have any more?
I don't think you're gonna have 100 and not even 50% of this restaurant operating between 10 and 11 PM here. Personally, we're talking Studio City and Sherman Oaks for that matter too. We're not gonna be at capacity here from 10 to 11.
I mean, the applicant did mention that the outdoor dining would stop and that there'd be a limited menu and people.
At 10.
Yeah, and people.
Outdoors stopping at 10.
And people would then be moving to the bar, which is completely on the other side of the restaurant. So.
Doesn't matter.
I think the relevant.
I think I could probably get a fair significant amount of neighbors that live in the neighborhood that would support us. I didn't know that I was required to ask them to come to join this meeting, or else I would have asked them to join. Mike Thaxton offered to join, my direct neighbor, a business who's offering a lot of parking, who's supportive in his letter that was attached. I would say.
If I may speak up, as far as neighbors, he's not exactly a neighbor. He's an office building and he goes home from the office at, I don't know, 6 o'clock. So it's not, I mean.
He owns a house in the neighborhood, ma'am.
Well, that would be fair if he lives on the street as well. I mean, I just think, I agree. There should be other neighbors speaking up and chiming in. Everyone's voice should be heard. But to say that he is a neighbor based on being the neighboring office building next door isn't quite the same thing.
And he's a residential neighbor within, I think, less than a half mile of the property. So, I mean, he has restaurants in his neighborhood, just as we all do. I have a restaurant in my neighborhood as well. So I understand. I mean, I'm not only a worker, I'm also a citizen as well. And I understand the balance that we're trying to walk here. And I think that if you went to any one of our locations, they're award-winning design-wise. They're some of the most educated restaurant employees in the city. We have a long-standing reputation within this city of being a good operator. And I think that there's value to that. And whether we're coming to Studio City or we're coming to any other community, we have to be part of the community. And there's a balancing act between the investment made in opening a restaurant and operating and paying people fair living wages and being a good neighbor and all the components that go into it.
So back to the item at hand.
Yeah, I think if I could just mention
Yeah,
something.
go ahead, Jesse, please.
Thanks. I think the relevant comparison to make here might be to this is an existing restaurant space with what was an existing conditional use permit. And it's worth considering what, the hours were for those businesses and how those affected the neighborhood. As I recall, Balconius, if I'm not mistaken, was open till 10. Girasol before that, if I'm not mistaken, was open till 10. And that doesn't mean that the lights are off at 10 and every customer has gone home. If somebody sits down for dinner at 9:45, they may well be enjoying their meal at 10:45 and paying the bill at 11. And that's just, that's what restaurant hours mean. I think it's worth just being clear about what we're talking about. These hours seem, it seems like the committee is coalescing around, this orientation of the hours, but that, that's not, that shouldn't, instill in anyone an expectation that, the lights, everyone's gonna be gone by 10 or lights are off at 10:15. That's just not what we're talking about.
Hi, this is Brianne. If I may jump in with the previous CUB hours of operations. They were from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and 11 a.m. to midnight Friday and Saturday.
Thank
And
you.
Thank you.
And if the previous owner was a responsible operator, the conditions would have never, ever lapsed. But because he didn't pay his fees to the city and the state, is why the CUP has lapsed. So we're trying to reinstate it. We've already had the building for close to a year or maybe even a year now. And I'll tell you, man, it is incredibly difficult to get building permits, to get any process really started, not just in Studio City, but in the city as a whole. And we look forward to getting open.
So my 2 cents, I think Sunday to Thursday 10 and Friday and Saturday 11, to me sounds a bit restrictive. It's been a restaurant location for a very long time. And obviously none of those restaurants have survived. And I think the hope would be that a restaurant would stay put and survive and be a good neighbor. This doesn't sound like these. I mean, you keep talking about Vitello's. Again, they have live concerts in Vitello's. It's different. And they've also taken up the street and their own parking lot. It's really not a fair comparison. I think it's good to know what are we asking for? When you said close, you mean lights out and everybody's home at 10 a.m. everyone gets kicked out? Or as Jesse said, there's a lag time between when you say 10 p.m. I'm sorry, I might have said a.m. It's just very restrictive for a restaurant to operate like that. And if the business doesn't come in, they're not going to stay open till midnight. But according to procedure, if this is the motion and it was second and we heard all the comments, then we're going to vote on it, and then we'll move along. So as far as go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry I interrupted. Go ahead.
No, please, if you had something to add.
I think in practice and in theory, the prior license apparently lapsed, which is a mistake, but huge mistake, costly mistake in a sense. But what was happening with these former restaurants from 10 to 11 seems to be a prudent question in trying to reestablish what was, because there must be some data there in the community.
Yeah, that's definitely relevant. And, I certainly would be interested to hear the neighbors weigh in on this. But as far as I know from someone who went to Balcones and went to Girasol, there was never, that I was aware of, any kind of late night crowd. Anyone can feel free to correct me on that, but I don't recall, it wasn't a bar scene at all. They were restaurants first and foremost, which is exactly what's being proposed here. And it's worth noting, no one's mentioned yet that I'm aware of the Starlight Cantina, which is Kitty Corner, which recently closed, as we know, but that permit allowed them to operate until 2 a.m. And so that's, if that, I'm not sure what the status of that permit is, but if something else goes in there and they're, going till 2 a.m., that seems like a more, relevant consideration in terms of late night neighborhood impact than this proposal.
Relevant, very relevant, but entirely different operation. Much smaller.
Can I jump in later? When you're done? I was going to jump in, and I'm going to say basically everything that the applicant has said is that this restaurant designed the way we want it in the community is not going to be sufficiently productive for him. He wants to design outside the parameters of what we usually have in this neighborhood. It just means it's not a good fit. And we all need to make our peace with that.
I think you're putting words into my mouth there, Joanne. I'm asking for being able to, if I have a customer sit down at 9:55 and they're eating pizza, they could still order a drink. If they're sitting at the bar area and they're not there with their family and they want to sit there until everybody's done washing down the kitchen, they can, and I could sell them another drink or two. There's not going to be a door.
That's
him
really
finish.
not what
Let
you're
him
asking
finish.
for. Is you're really
Let-
asking
let-
for the restaurant to
Joanne.
be open much later.
Let him finish. You didn't let him finish.
Yeah,
Well,
there's not
it's-
going to be a door guy. It's
It-
not going to be a 21 and up facility. This is a family-friendly restaurant. There's 3 other that are currently opening, that are open and running. There's a 4th coming. At all of our other locations, the CUP goes at least until midnight. Does not mean that we're serving alcohol until midnight. We're operators. We cut staff when we need to cut staff. We close. We allow the community to kind of dictate the hours of when we are serving. But what we don't want to do is have somebody there and say, hey, you know what? The neighborhood council did not support us, and this is the last call, even though you just sat down at 9:55 on a Friday night to order a glass of wine. We do not have any establishments in our portfolio that sell more than 30% alcohol to food. We are not a bar business. We are a restaurant, and we are a nice restaurant.
So back to this, I think it's unfair to suggest that this particular establishment is not a good fit for Studio City, which would imply we just absolutely oppose this no matter what. These are also recommendations. And if we are unreasonable in our recommendations, we will not be as effective with our recommendations. And
By the way, let's not rule out for the community, and maybe John, you can weigh in. What percentage of your sales are third-party delivery? But I assume the community at large stands to benefit tremendously from the ability to have a John and Vinny's in the area and benefit from third-party pickup and delivery.
Yes, we do to go, full menu to go during all hours of operation from 8 to 10. We would stay in that same format. The limited menu would not be available to go. It'd be a limited menu to allow our staff to clean the restaurant, detail it from top to bottom, which takes a long time.
so back on the item at hand, we can vote on this, or someone can offer an amendment and say Sunday to Thursday, 11 p.m., for instance, and Friday and Saturday midnight, which is pretty close to what they're asking, but at least the Sunday through Thursday, we're suggesting an earlier close because they're
Right.
school nights, work nights, whatever have you, and distinguish and have Friday and Saturday 2 nights a week as the applicant asks for midnight. If someone would want to propose an amendment for that, or we vote on this, and if it fails, we go back to 11 to 12. So
I will amend for 11 and midnight.
I'll second.
No, you have to close the vote on this one first.
Oh, it's on the floor.
No, it's an amendment. We haven't voted on it.
It was up for discussion, and an amendment was made before the vote. Which means back to public comment on and then we'll vote on the amendment, discuss and vote on the amendment. So, members of the public, the proposed amendment is Sunday to Thursday to close at 11 p.m., Friday and Saturday to midnight. Raise your hand if you'd like to talk about that amendment.
Do you want to type it in, Scott? So it's
Sure.
visible?
Adele, you're logged in too, right?
Yep.
You
Can I,
want to help out with that as well?
sure. Oh, is it on your,
It's on the Google Drive. I believe you're logged in. You can just type and we'll all see it.
I got it.
No,
I got it.
you
Yep.
can't do
can
it.
you- Am I doing it now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Who just spoke? I didn't hear what you said.
Adele, I said, am I?
Oh,
doing
not
it?
Adele, before you. Someone said no or something?
No, I
No, it
was
wasn't Dean.
saying that she was in.
Okay, I guess not. While Adele is changing that for the proposed amendment, I don't see any hands from the public. So we will go back to the committee. And what we have on the floor right now is the amendment to Joanne's motion of 10. We're going Sunday to Thursday, 11 p.m., Friday, Saturday, midnight.
No, mine was 10 a.m. and 11. Not 11 and
10
midnight.
p.m.
That
You
was
were
what we
10
just got rid
p.m.
of.
10 p.m. and 11 p.m. We're talking about closing.
Well, my motion was, if you're going back to my motion, it's 10 and 11. And
Yes.
Well, they just made a friendly amendment to your motion.
But nobody accepted it.
Oh, yeah, you
There was
have to,
there was nobody who
I
raised their hand to
second
vote
it.
for that.
I second the amendment.
you have to actually, she has to accept the amendment.
No, she
Yes,
does
she-
not. There's
yes,
no
she-
such thing as a friendly amendment. It's an amendment, period. Friendly amendment does not exist. It is not up to the person who brought forth the original motion. It's on the floor. It's open to everybody. Friendly amendment is something that has occurred many times before, and it does not exist. It's a fiction. It was an amendment. The amendment was second. We went to public comment, and now we're going to go to a vote. So we can leave that up on the. So what we're talking about here, Sunday to Thursday, we'll close at 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday, we'll close at 12 p.m. Dean,
Yes.
Scott votes yes. Joanne
No,
is no. Richard
No.
and Adele
No,
and Jesse.
I'm going to recuse myself from this vote because I'm an employee of the restaurant group.
Pardon me?
I'm going to recuse myself from this vote because I'm an employee of the restaurant group.
What's the restaurant group? This restaurant group?
Yes,
The John and Vinny's group?
correct.
Oh, well then you shouldn't have been participating in any of the discussion. Oh,
I was just trying to offer.
okay, so yeah, recuse means you are, okay, that's fine. So we got, so now, okay, we have 3 no's, 2 yeses. So the 11 to midnight fails. So now we go back to 10 to 11.
yes.
All right.
I'm not.
Which is where we were before. Great. Okay, 10 to 11. Dean,
No.
Scott, no. Joanne,
Yes.
What's
Richard, pardon?
I didn't ask, I didn't understand what you're saying. What's this a vote about? Second one.
The hours from Sunday to Thursday, closing at 10 p.m.
Yes,
and
11.
Friday and Saturday, 11.
Fine.
That was a yes?
Yes.
And then Adele.
yes.
Okay. Any other conditions? Now, mind you, this will also then go to the, when we go to the board, it can be amended again. So this is
Okay,
not,
the other condition that I was recommending was that they have a contract for overflow parking, because I think the way they are currently parked is completely insufficient for their expected guests.
okay, now the application did say that this construction and this permit does not trigger any additional parking. And we did hear the applicant state that they have quite a few parking spots. But you want more than what the city,
I want more than the 4 car parking spaces for
You
the
want
number
more
of
than-
guests that they have.
you want more than what the city requires. And more than what they're getting from their, so you want parking contracts.
Are you commenting on my motion
No,
by making those
I'm
statements?
asking for clarity. You're
No, you weren't asking for clarity. You were weighing in.
what are you asking for with the contract?
Have a contract for overflow parking.
What do you mean by a contract? I'm trying to get clarity.
The two landlords sign a piece of paper that says that I will give you the right to use my parking lot after 5 p.m., which is what has been heretofore discussed.
Do you have a number in mind?
No. I think he said there were 16 spaces. I don't know how many they want to strike a deal for.
We already have a letter in our presentation from Mike Thaxton on his letterhead.
A
and
letter
his
is not a
signature.
contract.
You know what? This is kind of taking much valuable time talking about a piece of paper for something that's voluntary.
I don't think this is appropriate to be trying to enforce contracts as part of.
No, it's beyond the city. It's even beyond the city.
This is not, I mean, if okay. Anyone care to second? And please clarify again what it is you're asking for, and we'll see if you get a second. Joanne?
It's right there.
That's it.
Right there. It's
That's
vague.
it. The other
It's vague.
alternative is to
The
give them-
restaurant will have a written contract for overflow parking.
It's vague.
Anyone on the, pardon?
It's vague. A written
Anybody
contract is vague.
Oh, okay.
Anybody on the committee wish to second it? If not, we don't go forward on this.
Make it for as long as the certificate of occupancy on the restaurant is valid.
Richard, are you offering an amendment to a motion that has not been seconded? Please, let's discuss the matter at hand. The restaurant will have a written contract for overflow parking.
Why can't we have a duration of that contract?
Because it's not going to happen, Richard.
Okay,
It's not going to happen. No owner's going to tie up their parking in practice. It's just not going to happen.
parking covenants, I've gone through a lot of them with the
It's
city.
not a covenant.
Hey,
It's not
Richard,
a covenant. The
Richard.
city's not requiring a covenant, okay?
Richard, you've been to many land use meetings,
Come
okay?
on, Richard.
Let's not go off the rails
We're
here.
wasting time
We
here.
have an applicant that made a very nice presentation, and it seems that this meeting has really turned.
Yeah,
a
but
bit
you got a neighbor that's
unfair.
volunteering his parking. Okay? That's what you got. That's as much as you're gonna ever see in writing from that neighbor contractually. That's real. That's practice. It's gonna operate in practice. And that's what they're gonna do. And they may even be able to valet and stack some cars in there, and 16 may become 20. But you know what? It's a gift.
Okay, I have not heard a second. So this motion is not on the floor for discussion. Next. Any other conditions? Previous conditions, just FYI, from watching the last 2 years of land use committee meetings, power washing sidewalks, that was a condition. I have yet to see a change for the hours, but things are not as they have been. Is there anyone else on the committee that would like to offer anything else based on what we've heard as far as a condition? We already have the hours at 10 p.m. on Sunday to Thursday, and Friday, Saturday, 11 p.m.
You know, I don't know. I know your comment, Scott, earlier about our other conditions that Richard offered, and the applicant hasn't seen them. But I would like, perhaps, I don't think this first class operation is going to have a problem with those conditions. Granted, they haven't seen them, but is there a way where we might get them to them and bring them forth in the board meeting?
Well,
between now and then?
I have no record of when these conditions were ever discussed by the land use committee and approved by the board as conditions that we would impose on an applicant. So these are new to me. They're new to almost all the board. They're new to many of the people on the land use committee, and they have not been in play for years. So I really don't know where they came from. And some of them are so broad that they apply to other types of establishments. And it seems like we would have conditions tailor-made to the applicant as part of the mission statement and vision of the land use committee. So applicants are prepared.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Perhaps
Okay.
we'll get them to them and they may consider voluntarily
That would be
bringing
fine.
forth some of them.
That would be fine. I'm just really not all that comfortable
Procedural, I understand.
in imposing the conditions that the committee has not seen or discussed.
Okay,
So we already have.
that's fair.
Okay, thank you. Back to the committee.
I have one question, a couple of questions.
Absolutely.
One, John said that the outdoor patio will close at 10. Does that need to be a condition? I mean, he's already said he's going to do it. So, I think that's fine. And the other thing, I would like it to be clear that, when you close at 10, if you order your food at 10:45 or 10 to 10, you can sit there and eat it and have a glass of wine. I mean, you can finish and you don't have to jump up and leave the restaurant at 10 p.m. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that we want the restaurant to wind down at 10, and so I don't know if there's a way to make that clear. And same with the 11, if you stop a restaurant, listen, I used to wait on tables, so I know if you stop a restaurant at 10, you don't get out of there I wouldn't get out of there till 11:30, by the time, or maybe even 12, because by the time people finish eating and they leave and they pay the bill and then you clean up and then you sit down for a minute and then you leave, you don't get out in half an hour. So, I mean, that's normal operating practice, which is why I believe we're asking for this closing, because if your last call is at midnight, you don't get out of there till 1 or 1:30. So, and I think that's why we're asking that, because it's of the neighborhood. So, anyway, that's my comment about the closing and everything. And the other thing is, should we put a condition that the outdoor seating for purposes of noise closes at 10?
So John, if you could address that as far as close, meaning your doors shut at 10, whether there's still food on your plate, or when you say, for instance, you close at midnight. I assume that doesn't mean when someone comes in at 11:55 with a party of 15 and is going to be ordering appetizers, drinks, dessert, and after dinner drinks, that they're going to be able to be served continually until 2 a.m.
I think it's no new service after 10 p.m.
John?
Well, if it says 10 p.m. on the conditions, then our last call would typically be at 9:45, because you got to have that runway to be able to get their drink orders in, the table not to feel pressured that we have to get their order, which gives them kind of like a 15-minute decision-making on last call. But if it's 10 o'clock, you can't serve after. If you're in there eating at 10:30 and you're having tiramisu and you want to have an after dinner drink, you're not allowed to serve it if it's 10 p.m. That's why we've asked for midnight. We don't plan to stay open till midnight. If we do that, we will have staff there until, like you said, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. That is not our business. That's not what our business model is. We are not a bar. We are a restaurant. We just want to be able to give incredibly great customer service when people are in there. We will run the identical hours as all the other John and Vinny's locations, but allow people to, order a drink. Jesse, who's on this call, is a bartender at Petit Trois in the Valley, and he could talk about our practices if you want. He's on this committee. He could probably explain to you, that even there, it's like, we're not a bar there. We're a restaurant. Do people come in there and sit there and have a drink? Yes. Most people will come in there to have a drink or probably waiting for their table to sit down for dinner. Sometimes if their table needs to be turned, we will ask them politely to move back to the bar. But customer service, restaurant experience, that's, crucial to our operations. So I don't know if that addresses what you're asking, but I mean, we're asking for midnight. So it's pretty uniform, but we will do our 10 o'clock last call, just like we do at our other places. If you're still there, we'll let you have a drink. Our plan is, as we clean up the main restaurant, we would then ask people to move into the bar if they didn't want to leave, until we were ready to lock up. Once we're ready to lock up, we want everybody out of the building.
Okay. Well, the previous condition, that ship sailed, and that can be addressed at the board meeting, and amendment can be offered to open that back up if someone were to propose that. Back to what you were saying, Adele, did you want to type something in for an additional condition about the patio? I mean, it's kind of a moot point.
I think it's a moot point. I don't think it matters.
Because
Yeah, I don't think it matters.
We chopped them off as to last call in the 9s, and then last call in the 10s on a Friday and Saturday night. So,
I mean, you could, I almost don't want to open up the can of worms, but you could say, I don't know, not something about, and help me out, Jesse, like, do you ever have a thing where the dining room closes at a certain time, but the bar can be, you can go get a drink at the bar till a certain time?
Yeah, I would imagine that's something that could be formulated. And I'll just say from my own experience that tends to happen organically.
But if you
especially-
allowed it, then it would happen. In other words, if we said, the Sunday, the restaurant closes at 10 p.m. and 11 p.m., but the bar can stay open till midnight.
Well, and people eat at the bar simultaneously. Singles will eat at the bar rather than sit at a table by themselves. I mean, that's kind of organic as well.
the applicant did mention a limited menu. It sounds like they want to start winding things down. Not putting words in their mouth, but it sounds like if you start to wind down by limiting the menu, your intention is to get the place shut down and everybody serviced and fed and the place cleaned up without straying too far over the 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. It sounds like I'm hearing suggestions that would indicate a possible regret for the 10 to 11. I'm not putting words in anyone's mouth, but now
No, I don't regret it. I was just thinking, because this restaurant, I think, unlike their other restaurants, is having a bar. Unlike the other, right? Did you say?
Where Jesse works has a bar, John and Vinny's. Currently, the locations that we have are smaller than this location, and did not have a alcohol permit when we acquired the space. It only had beer and wine, which we just have stayed true with. This location had an alcohol license. We're basically trying to just reinstate the alcohol permit that was there. And, we don't plan on, the last thing we want to get into is the bar business. That's not that's not our business. We also have to manage labor. Labor costs are through the roof here in Southern California. And overtime kicks in after 8 hours. We write a schedule accordingly. We don't want people clocking too much overtime. It just doesn't work for the operations of a restaurant. So, but right now, with the way that it stands, it's last call at 9:45 on Sunday through Thursday, and last call at 10:45 on Friday and Saturday nights.
So as far as some of the other comments made. I really would prefer we don't get into dictating the internal workings of the restaurant and when they would stop their dining room and shuffle everyone over to the bar. I mean, I think we're kind of overstepping there if that's what you really want. I'm
No,
just,
no, I was just,
I'm
I
just one vote. So I'm just one vote here, and I will obviously follow the majority of the committee, and then we can revisit this at the board meeting. Was there anything else that we wanted to go over before we vote on this amended motion with the last call 9:45 and then 10:45? Was there anything else that anyone from the committee wanted to add, or are we happy with this for the time being and we're ready to vote?
so is it opposes unless these conditions are met? Is that how it goes?
Well, I guess depending on what's happened in the last 2 years versus the 6 years before that, I have no preference.
Joanne, are you there?
I mean,
Who else?
we're supporting it with a condition, or we're opposing it unless a condition is met. I think it's the semantics.
Right.
So I have no preference. If your cursor's on it, Adele, you feel free to close the motion as it's written to comport with the one condition that we added. And if there are no other conditions to discuss.
Scott, I'm obviously not voting on this, but I just want to clarify the wording. At present, it reads, and I know you're saying we're not going to amend the main body of text there, but it reads hours of operation from 8 a.m. to 12 midnight daily. And then we have this amendment that says we'll close at 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday we'll close at 11 p.m. Now, does that mean that the conditional use permit, regardless of that amendment, goes till 12, and we're stipulating the operating hours of the rest, the posted operating hours, with the understanding that you close on a Thursday at 10, but you could still sell a glass of wine at 10:30? Is, just to be very clear here, is that what's being said, or no alcohol sales past these times? What exactly is being mandated by this amendment as currently written? Does that question make sense?
As it's currently written, the restaurant is closing, so they will not be serving alcohol or food or dessert after 10 p.m., which means 9:45, or after 11 p.m., which means 10:45. It doesn't really matter. As far as the condition, this is the wording of the conditional use permit. So it would not, in my opinion, be proper to rewrite the conditional use permit. That's a copy and paste from city planning. So that's the permit. We're opposing the permit as it's written, and then these are the conditions. The conditional use permit is 8 a.m. to midnight daily. And alcohol sales, 11 a.m. to midnight daily. The amendment didn't say alcohol sales end at 10 on Sunday to Thursday and alcohol sales end at 11. It just says the restaurant's closing. Does that clarify that?
I think it does. I mean, a lot of restaurants will post a closing hour, and that will be the point at which no more patrons are accepted, but they'll continue to serve, if not food, at least beverages past that point. And it, that, if that's the case, I mean, I'm not going to comment on, I won't comment on this, but that's pretty standard practice for a restaurant to post closing hours that are whatever hour they may be, and then for alcohol sales to continue past that point to people who were in there before that closing hour arrived.
Oh, so what you're saying is if they're still chewing on their food after 10 p.m. on a Sunday to Thursday, can they get a drink?
Right, basically. So at that point, is it a question of,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, that was not part of what was in the motion. And that was not, I mean, I voted no. The people who voted yes, I guess, I don't know what they had in mind. It wasn't amended again. So it is what it is.
Mhm. Okay.
Dean, do you
I
have,
agree.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
the motion. I
yeah,
opposed it, and
I feel the same way.
I still oppose it.
Yeah.
And I will continue to oppose it. So
Ditto.
thank you. So that is the motion. That is the amendment. I'll ask the same question. Anyone else have anything else to add? Or are we ready to vote on this with the amended hours that the majority of the committee voted for? Not seeing or hearing any objections. We're going to vote on what you see on the screen. It's the original motion. It now opposes unless the condition below is met. The condition is Sunday to Thursday will close at 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday will close at 11 p.m. I'm going to go in the order of the screen on top. Jesse is recused. My name is next. Well, if I vote, I'm going to vote yes, and then deal with this at the board meeting. So I'm going to vote yes, so this gets out of the Land Use Committee. So I will say yes. Richard Niederberg, what's your vote?
No, Brownie, talk about the land use committee.
Pardon me?
We'll also discuss it at the board meeting also.
So you're voting yes to move this out of committee and send to the board for where you may want to amend or discuss more. So your vote's a yes.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. Adele,
Yes.
and going down the list, where did Joanne? Joanne?
She stepped away. Haven't seen her come back prior.
We'll mark her as absent, I guess, for the moment. We've got 3 yeses, a recuse, and an absent.
You haven't asked Dean.
Did I not ask you, Dean? I'm so sorry.
No. It's okay.
Dean, what's your vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Question.
Yes, Richard.
In the paperwork that you presented on the screen, it says a 91602. Are we taking care of that? We're normally 91604, except for Campbell Hall.
That's from city planning. I did not put the zip code in.
Okay.
That is
Noted. We'll take it up. We'll take it up in the board, but we can verify that.
Yeah, that is a copy and paste. That was not, Joanne, are you back? We're marking you as an absent. So let me get this right. We got Jesse recused, Richard, yes, Scott, yes, Adele, yes, Dean, yes, Joanne, absent. Motion passes. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. For Brianne and John, this will be on the board meeting agenda for next Wednesday. I will email you tomorrow morning with some details about that. And this will go before the board. And you are free to invite people to make public comment. This will be an agenda item, and it is subject to amendment at that time by board members and additional discussion. So I thank you for your patience and for your presentation. And check your emails. I will update you for the agenda for next Wednesday. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
moving right along. A lot of paperwork here. Okay, folks.
Are we still at the meeting here? Oh,
Yeah, we voted on that motion. We marked you as an absent.
sorry. I had to take my medicine.
Okay, well, it passed, so this will be at next week's board meeting for further review. So we're on to agenda item 6, which is discussion regarding the use of flyers to notify stakeholders of land use issues coming before the committee. So as we heard in public comment before, this item was flyered to all the residents within close proximity. I created the flyer and the applicant helped me with the photocopying and the flyering on the door. We did on people's doors. We did get a few people participating because of it. This is not something that has been done for years. I've always thought that the residents most affected by any land use should be notified of our meetings. I wasn't able to do it until Tuesday, and this was sort of a test. I'm going to share my screen and show you an example. Bear with me one second. Okay, there we go. Share. So I created this for this particular meeting. I just took a SCNC letterhead and pretty much, as you can see what I wrote, it was the information that was on the agenda. And it gave instructions on when the meeting was, how to log in. Apparently it was successful. We did get some people. I would have liked to have noticed this further in advance. However, as you know, our agendas are not ready that far in advance, and they go out 72 hours to the city ENS system, and they go to our website. Those are the two required. Actually, they also get physically posted at Radford at 2 kiosks. So the item to discuss, and this is not going to be subject to a vote, we're just going to discuss it. And I'd like to know what everyone's opinion is as far as doing the flyers. I'm not going to physically flyer every single issue that comes up. I'm going to investigate if perhaps maybe the youth committee would help out, or if it's a larger project, we would use a service like Walking Man. I don't know if we would be Xeroxing them in our office, or I would get a print shop to do it. This was just a test. And as Barry had mentioned earlier in public comment, this is something that apparently the Land Use Committee did many years ago and stopped doing in recent years. My suggestion is we start this process up again. And I would like maybe people to help with the flyering. That being said, I'd like to hear from the public. If anyone from the public has any comments about what they think about passing out flyers to the adjacent residents or businesses that are going to be affected by a land use issue, we could always, I already see one fault of my flyer where I did not offer the public a method of how they can sign up for our agendas. They cannot sign up for our agendas at our website. They can only sign up through the city's ENS, and I would add that to the next flyer we pass out. I would probably add a QR code for people who would prefer to use that method. And Michael Buckner, please go ahead. I'd like to hear from you.
I was just going to say that I thought that I really appreciated receiving the flyer. So I think it is a great idea for anyone who is directly impacted by these kinds of decisions. Usually I feel like they're made in private and quietly. So it's nice to be able to be a part of the process. So thank you.
Thank you for that. One of the challenges would be how to flyer this in advance of when the agenda is ready, because we don't have a firm agenda item until the agenda is published, and the agenda does not get published because there could be other items of business and we don't want to put the agenda out too soon and then have the agenda go out again, and or have something with the applicant. Sometimes we don't firm up with the applicant until too close to the agenda. So these are all things that the committee can work on and over time develop a better system, or something that works better for everybody, including the committee, applicants, and issues, without having to fly or say 1,000 different residences. Is anyone from the committee?
Can I ask Barry a question? Barry, are you there? He's gone?
God,
I was gonna suggest that nobody wants to do the flyering, and I think that's really gonna be barking up an empty tree, and that maybe the answer to this problem is we start a campaign of informing people and driving them to the website as a place to start, because I'm not going to volunteer to flyer them. I don't think Barry's going to re-volunteer to fly them. And I don't know why we need to visit the concept of flyering somebody if we're not going to actually, if you don't have the budget to pay for somebody, a third-party person, to get contracted to do it. So if we have the budget, then something to talk about. If we don't have the budget, then I think you have to go to some other position.
Our outreach committee is working on ways to get the public actually more involved in the neighborhood council process. However, these are targeted, very specific, location-specific issues, and those normally don't work with our website because a lot of the people who are going to be affected by these land use issues have never even heard of the neighborhood council. So if we're going to start reaching out to people generally, that's for all committees and board meetings. That's to get more people involved in the neighborhood council.
Well, how about posting? Would posting on the property give the adjacent neighborhood enough information that you might be able to get people to do that? I'm just trying to think of a practical solution.
Well, I understand, and I think posting at the property itself is a very good idea. And we would simply put the notice, the flyer.
Well, wouldn't have to have name, date, rank, because even the notices from the city don't have that. It just says, please be advised, somebody has applied for a permit for this property, and go to the website and keep track of it.
Sure, and I understand that. And it sounds like the point is to, because we don't have bodies to actually put out a proper notice, we're going to put a general notice out on the building that probably nobody will ever read and won't go through the effort to go, oh, someone's going to have a hearing at some particular day and I don't know how to sign up, and maybe I'll.
So you're weighing in and you don't think that's a good, it's not viable. That's fine.
I don't think that serves proper purpose, as opposed to putting a physical notice on people's doorsteps. So I was.
I just have a question.
Sure.
Don't we have a budget? I mean, couldn't we get a budget to flyer people's neighborhoods?
Well, sure. It all depends. I mean, it did not take me very long, with the help of the applicant, who was kind enough to assist, to do the general vicinity. I mean, seriously, you can walk up and down a couple blocks in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everyone on this committee needs to do it. And I did mention I would be talking to the youth committee about their helping, and perhaps there might be someone else on this. I'm not pushing this upon Barry. Barry's not even on this committee.
But the other thing I was thinking about is you don't have to wait until we have a date that they're coming to the neighborhood council. You can have a flyer that gives the information, like this person has applied for these permits. We will be having a hearing. Check our website, and if you check our website. Here's the URL for when blah blah blah, and then they can. Maybe people will get more involved and come more than once to the neighborhood council meetings,
Sure.
So I think you should explore what the possibilities and survey the land use committee members and see if they will walk. And if they tell you they won't walk, then you need to move on to the next step.
Well, to Adele's point, we would still someone would still need to be walking.
I would walk.
We would just have a different we would just have a different flyer. It wouldn't say the Zoom meeting is on a particular date and time. It would say there's one coming up and you need to go to our website and continually check it because we're not sure the date that we're gonna put it on the agenda.
To be determined.
Yeah, it's a to be determined. And I can tell you from my experience on the outreach committee before I was a board member, that goes nowhere, as well as our flyers that we sent out for our election. Those went nowhere. We got very few return ballots, and with the lack of the specificity, it would actually require 2 flyers. We're going to have a hearing at some particular date, and then when we know the date, it would then make sense to tell the people, here's the date. I understand your point, but I don't think the public is going to be all that active in checking our website and.
Okay, so I guess I'm saying, can we shut down the discussion on this and agree that you're going to pursue it? Is that what you're looking for from us?
No, I was asking for more input and discussion, but if you want to shut it down, I guess we can vote to shut it down and nobody speak anymore on this topic. Do we have a second? Or is that what we're doing? Is that what you want to do?
I'll make the motion. My motion is that you can pursue it, and any of the committee members who want to pursue that particular topic can join you.
I think if no other committee member had anything to say, we would move on.
I'll make a quick comment. I think just briefly.
Wait, is there a second or no? That's what Joanne's.
Does anyone want
made a motion
to shut this down and not let Jesse speak?
Is that tainted or what?
I don't know. There's no second. Okay, Jesse, please.
Okay. I think, the proof is in the pudding on something like this. And even it was just last night or yesterday, apparently, that you got these out, but we had 2 neighbors.
Maybe 3. Maybe
3, perhaps 3. Fantastic. Join the meeting who presumably otherwise wouldn't have. And that's more civic engagement, which is great. And, there's obviously a cost benefit analysis, I guess. But if it's really a matter of grab a few flyers, take 20 minutes to paper 2 blocks, whenever there's a really relevant application coming before our committee, that seems valuable to me to not just in terms of civic engagement or getting more people at our meetings, but first and foremost for the affected residents and stakeholders. There's certainly value there. So I'll certainly be more than happy to do a quick papering along those lines whenever there's something of the scale that we're dealing with right now, for the record.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the committee? Dean, go ahead.
I think it's important to alert the community, and I don't think we can probably sit back and say which ones are more relevant than others, because people are going to be affected one way or another, and they're stakeholders. So I think we could look back to probably Lisa Sarkin and find out what the timing was, how much in advance they used to do it, since we seem to be talking about what used to happen historically. We can probably derive that information, but times are different, walking neighborhoods publicly, et cetera, but I think generally speaking, we should look to try to alert these immediate neighbors, and I think posting is a great idea, and such, getting them to follow to the website. I know that's a challenge as well, but and then I would hope that the applicants can participate as well, and I don't know if maybe there's a fee that the applicant we could require or put up to help assist with bringing the community involvement now.
Thank you, Dean. And I'd like to hear from Melanie.
Sure, I was just going to second everything Jesse said, and I like Dean's idea about encouraging the applicants to get involved. I think it's a good way to increase people's participation, especially people near the proposed projects. It's what we're supposed to be doing. So I applaud you for bringing it to the table.
Thank you, Melanie. And I know I mentioned this before. I just want to say, for this particular one, the applicant made this possible. They did the Xeroxing and they walked the streets with me and did 50% of the flyering for our flyer. So I have all your suggestions and I will come up with a better flyer and a way to get it earlier. I did have this agenda ready 4 days before this meeting, and it was sent out through the ENS and physically posted and put on our website, but I was physically not able to post to flyer until the Tuesday. So this is something that I can work on and probably get a way to get it a few more days earlier, or create some type of a draft agenda once I get the confirmation that the applicant is coming. So you give me some really good ideas. And if I don't hear any more, see any more hands or questions from the committee, I'm more than happy to move on and let Dean talk to us a little bit about all the commercial real estate going on Ventura Boulevard. So Dean, please, if you'd be so kind and give us an update.
Sure.
Are
Thank
you
Scott.
skipping, are you skipping
I skipped
7?
something?
Oh, number 7, yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That was probably a Freudian slip. It was suggested that we have on the agenda item a discussion about densification. Do we want to discuss that tonight? I'm totally fine. Or if you guys want to discuss that on another meeting and have something more specific on the agenda, but we've been seeing a lot of Assembly bills, Senate bills, all types of plans and quotas and housing mandates being put upon us that would seem to indicate that densification is coming, height as well, above and below ground. Did anyone want to go around the horn about things that we would be bringing to future meetings regarding densification? I know I will go to public comment unless the committee wants to.
I'd like to, I make a motion to table this discussion to another date.
Yeah.
Second.
I'll call for a vote.
Yeah, everyone in favor of that, just I guess raise your hand. This is a fairly simple one.
Richard, yes.
Great, thank you. So we're gonna come back to 7, and if anyone wants to give me offline some more specifics about either council files or such, we'll add those. And now, Dean, please go ahead.
Thank you, Scott. Scott asked me a few days ago just about if I'd be willing to discuss some of the activity and things that are going on real estate wise in Studio City. I think he's implying mostly from a commercial standpoint, because I do not get involved in residential real estate. I'm largely commercial along the boulevard and such. In Greater Studio City, plenty off the boulevard as well. I had, different ways that I was thinking about presenting, and I know it's getting late, so I'm wondering, I can touch upon some of it, but I'm also wondering about format, if it might be better to open it up. I can comment on a few different things that are public information, things that are in process and such, but then maybe it might be more effective if people want to ask questions because it's on their mind. That might be, catering to more of what you guys really want to know than what I may choose to tell you. So with that, I would tell you that, Studio City commercial property is still, very vibrant. On the leasing side, there are a number of, requirements that are being inquired about up and down the boulevard, largely in Studio City, that requirements that can't be fulfilled for one reason or another. Sometimes there's just an incredible desire for restaurants to continue to want to be in Studio City, much of them on the smaller side, which are not available. But there's, a line for generally speaking. We talk about first generation restaurants and we talk about second generation restaurants, meaning you can convert some changes of use, much more laborious project, much more expensive project. So right now, with all the backlog in the city and the understaffing, most restaurant requirements are wanting to look for second generation space because there isn't as much construction permitting and all, and they don't get stuck in the queue of waiting for all the city understaffing issues. Because it's not uncommon to have a year go by, which is what John and Vinny are dealing with as well. On the retail side, I think a lot of you have seen, different changes with the Gap, Banana Republic leaving, and those tenant spaces being re-tenanted. Some sizable, new names. I know not everyone's in love with, getting another mattress firm, but it's just so the mattresses and the trick in Studio City and mattresses, and I actually am handling one that did see a downturn in April. The Nest over by a little further west, they went out because they saw their sales dropping. But the attraction of really all the mattress firms is sit and sleep. And because Larry does so much advertising that all the mattress firms want to cluster around Larry and all his advertising because they feel like they're getting free advertising and people are going to go in Larry and then they're going to walk, next door down the block and, be a good consumer and compare and contrast. So that's kind of the theory of why we see this cluster of mattressing, if you will, going on between Sleep Number and I was talking to one today, Sleep Cycle, but that's really the theory there. There's an exciting tenant coming along where Pier 1 used to be. That's the Van Eaton Galleries. That's a really unique concept. They've been in business 30 years in Sherman Oaks and they're expanding and they do online auctioning of memorabilia and they have a very large presence with Disney and Disney type memorabilia, which they auction, they sell. And what that facility is going to be is an auction facility and like a museum of art. They're going to have retail, but they are going to have on-site auctions as well. They're going to get into sports memorabilia. And I think it's going to be a really fun place to just kind of meander through. Other than your typical clothing store and some of the other stores that we have. So it's really going to be a unique addition for everyone and look, purchase, and perhaps you even have something you may want to put, up for auction there. There's a number of switching to property sales. There have been a variety of property sales of late. Some of them have been just generational sales, family members, passing away and family members looking to sell. That was the case. The Sit and Sleep building is in escrow. I don't think it's closed yet, but an investor is purchasing that property. The Wells Fargo building is an attractive investment. It's under contract. It went to a court-appointed receiver. It's going to be an interesting property going forward because it's over an acre. Wells Fargo is there for probably another, I think, 7 years. So more than likely at some point in the future that becomes some different use, and maybe that speaks to the what we were speaking about in our prior item as far as densification, because we know that's on everyone's mind. But that's a pretty focal property sitting in the heart of Studio City. A lot of what's driving and has been driving some of the property sales is owner users, meaning dentists, business people who want to own their own buildings. And the SBA has been up till recently before interest rates really hiked. The SBA, you can get in with as little as 10% down. So that was driving a lot of activity, a lot of sales for a lot of buildings, dentists and medical especially, although it's a little challenging to get medical into parts of Studio City in the pedestrian-oriented area. But that's what's driving a lot of some of the sales that are going on. I will also tell you that the public storage facility was sold, and the whole portfolio of all public storage was sold to a public company. And in that transaction, the retail portion fronting along Ventura Boulevard from Tracy Anderson clear to the restaurant. I'm spacing on the restaurant.
The Village
Which?
or
No.
Granville.
Granville. Yeah, that's all being sold off. There's the one office building where the Village is. That's a separate parcel there, which is not in part of it. Uniquely, that was carved out many years ago, but there is going to be new ownership there other than the new ownership of all the public storages, but I don't expect anything to really change there. I don't think we're going to know of anything, but that is, a new change of ownership along there. Many of you are aware that Kitcraft was sold a year plus ago. I was involved in that sale. It was just really a retirement situation, which is another, reason why we're seeing some of these sales. Many of these owners own their own buildings, and if it wasn't for them owning their own buildings, probably rents would have hiked up to where they wouldn't have these established businesses and such. So that's what's kept some of these businesses alive in Studio City. Any other notable sales? There's still a few things on the market. I think the other property that was sold recently of note, going to be a restaurant, which was Hyperion Republic. That transferred ownership. It's going to be a restaurant, more than likely of some sort. It was purchased by the ownership that owns the rest of that strip there, from Lipan all the way east to Phil's Coffee and Sweet Green. So it's just was really an assemblage. So I expect that to maintain as a restaurant, but that was really what we just call it, a neighboring assemblage, but more than likely it's going to be another restaurant. What else can I share with you? I know that talked about Wells Fargo, the Ivy, well, it used to be the Ivy, but Sit and Sleep. The Den, it was a little meditation spas for sale, expensive price, but that's on the market. Couple properties west of Coldwater, beyond Lipan there on the north side of the street, that have, again, generational transfers coming to market. What else can I share? That is really most of the hot topics. I think if some of you that didn't know, the health club that closed right around Ventura Place and Laurel Canyon, that shut down, that property was sold and going to be repurposed more than likely. So I think they're working on their plans. We'll probably see that in land use soon. That former was Total Women for many years, and then became kind of a fitness gym. So I expect some things happening there down the road. The Gap, just so you know, touching back on that, is going to be a wellness spa user tenanted. The owner who bought that property has the same tenant in a property they own in Pasadena, and came across, and they are not joint venturing, but landlord bought the property and is going to tenant it with his existing relationship from a Pasadena location. So that is, some of the activity amongst many others, but there are, again, a number of tenants that still want to be. Fitness is very, very popular demand to get in space, yoga, Pilates, any type of fitness. All these people just are flocking, the operators are flocking to be in Studio City because the demographics are such, and the health consciousness of our community is such that they're willing to pay for these services. And they're just, not the facilities. They come with issues as far as noise and parking, and trying to facilitate some of these requirements are not easy, but there's still a tremendous amount of demand for that type of use as well as the restaurant use. So with that, I'll turn it over to some questions. If anyone has any particular questions or curiosities, if you will.
Sure, Melanie, go ahead.
Thanks. I really appreciate that, Jane. A quick clarifying question, and then a question about something you didn't raise, and I don't know if you can share. So the first one, relative to Wells Fargo, you said it's been sold, but it'll still be there for the next 7 years?
Yes.
Okay, so Wells Fargo is still going to be Wells Fargo for the next 7 years, but it's under, the property itself is under different ownership. Is that?
It was on the market. It was in escrow. It was subject to a court receiver and an overbid. That court procedure took place on Friday, and as far as I know, no one else showed up to the overbid, but the original buyer who put it under contract is probably scheduled to close. The original terms of the Wells Fargo lease, I think there's a few years left on the term that they're in, and they had 1 5-year option. So unless the new ownership cuts some new deal with Wells Fargo in some way, shape, or form, Wells Fargo has the rights to it, for the foreseeable future. But, it's not like some of the banks out there that have, innumerable options and long runway as far as time.
Right.
So just something that, we're kind of aware, monitoring and such.
Great, thank you. And then you didn't mention anything about, basically Ventura Boulevard between Whitsett and, Goodland, basically. And it's just been so much chatter about changes.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And the reason I didn't mention it is because I think everyone is largely aware of what's happening there, especially those that participate in land use or the board as a whole. And I don't think I can bring anything new to the table in those areas. So I didn't purposely leave it out, but I don't think I can add anything new that we don't already know or anticipate or what's in process.
Okay, I had just heard contradictory things and lots of mysteries, so maybe I missed the.
Oh, I mean, if you have a mystery or a rumor, I could tell you if I know, but I'm not, trying to extend any flares or anything, because I think, I don't know everything all the time, and sometimes I learn things that I don't know, and I'm always learning from other brokers. Sometimes I have a lot of relationships in the area, in the community and such, and there's some absentee owners that are out of town owners, but I don't hear everything real time and not always the first to know.
Well, that cleared that right up. Thank you.
What was the contradictory thing you heard?
I guess I've just heard lots of different speculation and nothing that I felt like was a definitive, this is what the plan going forward looks like it might be.
Like the bowling alley being sold?
Yeah, I mean, people have talked about a lot of different things. This has been sold, that's coming back, that's going to change, this is going to be demolished. I mean, I've just heard all kinds of crazy stuff.
I could, to your point, it's not Whitsett to Coldwater, but I could, and I think we talked about it once before, maybe the last land use committee that met, but the market at Eureka that was planned that pulled out is no longer happening, and they're studying, what to do with that property and whether it go mixed use or completely residential. They're really trying to evaluate that along with, some of the new, California laws that we're wrestling with, that are all before us.
As a basis of comparison, is Sherman Oaks, if are they experiencing similar churn in the market along Ventura Boulevard for that portion, or is it a little more stable there and it's Studio City that is the target or the focus?
No, Sherman Oaks is definitely experiencing some of the similar issues, for sure.
Well, that was a very, thank you very much for that update. And if we can do it sort of regularly or semi-regularly, I think it's helpful. I know a lot of the public has dropped off, even some of the committee has dropped off because the meeting went on a little, I think that one item went on a little longer than we had anticipated. So there's another new thing on the agenda, which you'll hate me for. Item 9, good of the order. That is a Robert's Rules of Order term, and that is what we call it, or this is what we're supposed to call it, is when you go to the committee and let them chime in on things that are not on the agenda, but are on their mind. So for the good of the order, anybody have anything to say? And it doesn't have to be good. You can say bad things for the good of the order. I know we're looking for a permanent chair. I'll chime in then if no one else, I'll be brief. A permanent chair for land use. I'm just the acting chair. This is not something I want to continue to do. I get the impression that some people want to go back to the land use committee as it was many years ago, not as it was for the last couple of years. I'm not as familiar with that as I am with what's transpired the last couple of years, when agenda items such as the one we dealt with are usually covered fairly quickly. We even have apartment buildings that it just simply says we support, and there's the quote from the city planning. We've had many restaurants where it simply says we support, and it's the quote from city planning. Things are different now, and I'm going to have to adjust because I think maybe people have a different view on how Studio City land use should be handled, which is fine. So in the future, if you have a suggestion for things like conditions or things you want to have the applicant present or be well-versed on, I had asked a couple weeks ago that if you had any information or questions, I would provide it to the applicant to make the meeting go quicker. I didn't receive anything from anybody until 15 minutes before the meeting started. I also, there was another item I asked. Oh, I sent everybody the draft of the agenda, written neutral. And I was wondering if anyone found that helpful, so I didn't have to start typing the motion in the middle of the meeting. And it was written as neutral as I could, supports with conditions, opposes. It was the conditional use permit, and then a slot. I shared it with everybody on the Google Drive. Thumbs up, thumbs down. You don't like that, you do like that. I don't want it to be thank you, Melanie. I don't want it to be a one-person land use committee. I want it to be a committee that I try to guide, but obviously I'm just one vote. So I want as much input from you all as you're willing to give, and tell me what you want to see different. I already heard it loud and clear. I need to go back to the land use committee and look at those videos from 5-6 years ago and see how people did things, because apparently the copy and paste from city planning, whether it's a restaurant or apartment building, is just not going to cut it. And I don't think it's going to be fair to the applicant to sort of hijack or spring upon them things during the meeting. So enough said about that. Anyone else for good of the order? Anyone from the public want to say anything about our good of the order? If not, I think we can, well, we just came in under 3 hours. I think 3 hours is definitely the limit. So thank you all for attending. And I know it was a rough meeting. It had some interesting moments. and we will try to smooth it out for the next one. And if anyone has any ideas for a permanent land use chair, please send them my way. Any of you? I don't think so. Yeah, that's fine as well. I'm only doing this because there's a vacancy to fill, and we have this on other committees as well where nobody wants to chair it. So it's not just this committee. And that being said, at 9:57, not seeing any objections or hearing any objections, we're going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you all, and we'll see you next Wednesday at the board meeting. Good night, everybody.
Thanks,
All right,
Scott.
thank you.
Bye.